And we'll start in just a moment. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. All right, well, it's time to get started, so I'll go ahead and start the recording. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the webinar, Community Driven, How Engagement Guides the Vision and Planning of a Community-Wide Trail Network. My name is Candace Gallagher, and I am the Director of Operations and Webinar Coordinator for American Trails. This is our 236th webinar in the American Trails Advancing Trails webinar series. And before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and go over a few logistics. This webinar is being recorded. It includes real-time closed captioning in English and also offers free learning credits. And you'll see a link to the quiz and the survey in the chat box. And you can turn on captions by clicking on the CC button at the bottom of your Zoom window. And of course, if another language is ever needed, just let us know. And attendees will receive a follow-up email from me within 2 days that will include a link to the recording, the transcript, a resources slide that does include the presenter emails, as well as learning credit details. And I want to thank our webinar partners that include Visit Long Beach Peninsula, the Professional Trail Builders Association, iZone Imaging, as well as the Bureau of Land Management, the National Park Service, and the USDA Forest Service. And I'm happy to introduce our presenters for today. We have Mike Rapiak, who's Director of Planning and Design with IMBA Trail Solutions. And we also have David Weens, who is the Executive Director of IMBA, the International Mountain Bicycling Association. So I'm excited to pass controls over to Mike to get started.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Candace. Happy to be here, excited to be here. Say good morning, good afternoon, good evening to our attendees here. I think you even heard from a few international folks that we're going to join in on this. As Candace mentioned, I am the Director of Planning and Design for IMBA Trail Solutions. I've been with IMBA for almost 8 years and have a background in landscape architecture and planning, and have worked in the outdoor recreation planning world for about 25 years, spanning across the ski industry, mountain resort development, working for Wisconsin State Parks as a trails development coordinator, and now with IMBA, obviously. So I'll pass it off to Dave for his intro.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks everybody for being here. My name is Dave Weens. I'm the Executive Director of IMBA. I've been with IMBA for just over 7 years, but I've been involved in trail advocacy since the late 80s around here in Gunnison. And, community trails are just so valuable to us. My wife and I went for a hike yesterday evening, and, early this morning, I was able to bundle up and jump out and head out on my mountain bike. So probably everybody on this webinar knows the value of trails, especially those that are close to us that we can access a lot. So I'm really looking forward to this presentation and hearing everything that Mike has to say.
Thanks, Dave. So yes, we are the International Mountain Bicycling Association. Our mission is to create, enhance, and protect great places to ride mountain bikes. We have been doing this now for over 30 years. And most recently, our focus is more trails close to home. And we don't necessarily just focus on mountain bike trails. We are doing a majority of our projects, and a lot of our advocacy for shared use trails, and engaging with all the different trail users that are allowed on project areas, landscapes that we're working on. Trail Solutions, we've been around for about 20 years. We are a series of planners and designers, and we have a few construction teams that are doing work all over the US and occasionally some work internationally. Did a lot of work internationally 20 years ago, and as we've built up that capacity by training others throughout the world, our need is not as strong in other locations because there's great things happening for the work that we've done previously. Over the past 20 years, we've collaborated with many other professional trail industry folks to develop resources, from our Trail Solutions book that was released 20 years ago to our most recent book, the Mountain Bike Trail Development Guidelines for Successfully Managing the Process. Many of these are available free online or available for purchase through Amazon or Barnes & Nobles. So if you're looking for more information on developing sustainable trails, please check out those resources. With that, I'm going to pitch it to Dave for a few slides on trails are common ground.
Thanks, Mike. And as Mike mentioned, while we are the International Mountain Bicycling Association, more and more trail solutions has become agnostic to just focus on community development for trail users of all kinds. And to that, Trails Are Common Ground was an ethos or a movement that came about in the spring of 2021. And if you all recall, that was probably the height of lots of folks out on trails. And we were hearing all kinds of reports about, experiences suffering from overuse and crowding. And a coalition was formed that was made up of hikers, trail runners, equestrians, mountain bikers, and traditional motorized users. We came together, met several times, created the name Trails Are Common Ground, created the movement. It's basically to inspire and inform and guide trail users, land managers, communities that are interested in trails, and brands that support trails. And it was created by, among others, the initial architecture was Tread Lightly, the American Trail Running Association, Backcountry Horsemen of America, American Hiking Society, Teton Adaptive, Pacific Crest Trail Association, Navajo Yes, Continental Divide Trail Coalition, IMBA, IMBA was in there, Latino Outdoors, American Trails, Equine Land Conservation Resource. And certainly there's some others that I missed. But basically what we were focused on was how can we improve everybody's experience out on trails? How can we make sure that everybody walked, ran, or rode away from their day on the trails having just had a fantastic experience? And the group really focused first and foremost on diversity, equity, and inclusion on trails so that everyone should feel safe and welcome on trails. The second pillar was responsible use, or just good old-fashioned trail etiquette. There's a ton of information out there on trail etiquette. We constantly hear, we need more etiquette, we need more education. And we do. The resources are out there. It's getting trail users to take them and put them into practice, which is the challenge. And we've done some unique things lately with using social influencers and kind of these one topic Instagram posts and things like that have a little bit of a different angle. And if you go to Trails Are Common Ground on Instagram, you can see some of these. But what's the meat of this presentation is basically comprehensive trail development. We realize that we can create better trails for all users that have a higher carrying capacity and lower opportunity for conflict and increase user satisfaction across all types through comprehensive planning and design. And that's going to be the meat of this presentation. So if you're more interested in Trails Are Common Ground and you don't know about it, go to trailsarecommonground.org, scroll down to the Get Involved, click on that, submit your email, and we do a really good monthly newsletter, and there's all kinds of resources at trailsarecommonground.com. Back to you, Mike.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. Some great work really happening there. To start off here, I thought we just set the foundation on what are trail communities, and also then get into the users that we're interfacing with. Trail communities across the country are using trail development as a catalyst for change and growth in their communities. We know people are moving to locations where they have good access to outdoor recreation, and that makes your community much more healthy and diverse. It provides a great opportunity to create a unique and active lifestyle culture throughout many different aspects of trail use. Access to the trails and outdoor recreation, access to that infrastructure attracts folks moving to your community, also retains workforce that businesses need and regions are seeking. It is really important out in the landscape right now. And none of these impacts happen if your community is not involved. This is a very key piece to developing high quality trail experiences. So benefits of more trails close to home, it's a lot of things that I'm sure many of you have talked about throughout developing trails nearby or elsewhere. But that enhanced quality of life, creating a more vibrant and livable community, like I just mentioned in the previous slide. It's a conduit to nature and public lands. We know that communities that don't have direct access or nature around them may be suffering in some ways when it comes to health and wellness and ability to really recreate in the outdoors. So health and wellness there that I just mentioned, those health and wellness benefits are far-reaching and well documented. There's a lot of great studies of health and wellness impacts, positive impacts of being able to have access to the outdoors via trails. And be happy to provide some resources here through some engagement afterwards. Candace will be sharing our emails with everybody, and don't hesitate to reach out to us. Equitable access. So many of our projects, we're looking at getting connections to nature, trail experiences near underserved communities. And we're doing a lot of analyses using demographic data, GIS analyses to see where there might be some trail deserts, and getting access to folks out there that may not have ease of access. Youth engagement, that's really key. We're seeing we have seen over the past couple of decades a decrease in kids enjoying trails, kids on bikes. We're developing trails all over the place. We want to make sure that infrastructure continues to be used and loved. So getting youth on trails early and often and away from their devices is really healthy for them and for the community overall. And as I mentioned a couple slides ago, the attraction and retention of professionals. We're seeing many communities that are engaging with large corporations and businesses to bring in young professionals. We have Adobe out in Salt Lake City. Many of the C-suite folks throughout Salt Lake City have been surveyed, interviewed on why they're located where they are. And many of the responses are because of the access to outdoor recreation. And then also that attraction of outdoor related businesses, outdoor industry, what you're seeing happening on the western slope of Colorado or out in Asheville, North Carolina, a lot of great outdoor recreation based industries and businesses being adjacent to where their gear is being used. So what do high quality trail communities have in common? Setting that baseline of what we're seeing out there. We have trail champions. Those trail champions are coming from many different user groups, user types, and many different positions within the community. Might be an advocate for trails, might be a mayor in a community that's looking to add trails, might be a business champion. So we engage with many of those trail champions and provide education and resource for them to make sure great things are happening for trails within their community. We have engaged trail users. Want to make sure we're reaching out and interfacing with all the different types of trail users that are there in your community or those that you're wanting to bring into your community. And that's what we'll really dive into here next. A supportive community, supportive businesses, and healthcare organizations. A lot of the successes that we're seeing across the country is in that private and public partnerships, where we have businesses and healthcare organizations and foundations providing private dollars going into public infrastructure and viewing trails as park infrastructure, similar to how sports and ball fields are being developed and managed, to golf courses and pools and all those other facilities, making sure that trails are looked at in the same way and that trails are not just something that happen overnight only by volunteers. Aligned vision and goals, making sure that everybody that's involved in trail development and using the trails understand what we're trying to do with trails and what the future looks like for setting some great goals of what may be happening for the trails. And a range of trail experiences, and we'll talk about experiences here in a second also. Connected green spaces and trail networks. We know that the key to a high quality trail community is connectivity. We may have nodes of trail experiences. Those nodes and zones or networks may be throughout the community. If you have to drive to those locations, it takes away from the experience a little bit. It's much better if you're able to ride or hike or run from your home via a safe and connected green space trail network to get to the larger trail experience. So some successful trail communities out there. You can look to the Roaring Fork Valley in Colorado. This is between Aspen and Glenwood and beyond. On their website, they talk about their strategies where they are doing collaborative planning with many different user groups and the communities that they serve, the decision makers and the land managers. Planning with recognized standards, much of which IMBA and others have helped develop. A focus on expanding opportunities for beginner riders and expert riders. In the past, a lot of their trails were intermediate focused. An increase in trail stewardship. So working with volunteers and youth groups and others to really have trail users be also stewards of the land. constant progress of what they're doing with trails out there. They're always expanding and improving, but they're doing that through the lens of land conservation. So being very smart in their development. Using direct funding from private donors to public dollars in grant funding, and along with their labor that's going into trail maintenance, along with them also being an IMBA chapter. I won't go into too much detail on these others, but pointing out Knoxville, Tennessee, the Appalachian Mountain Bike Club. They have some amazing volunteer engagement, and they do a report every year on what they're doing out there. Over 3,300 hours of volunteer work effort out there, clearing out down trees, training sawyers. They have a large membership there. They're doing some awesome things in that zone around Knoxville. And then take Park City, Utah. They have an interactive online trail database that you can go on and understand what the best experiences are for the trail runner, for the hikers, for Nordic skiing, for snowshoeing, for mountain biking. A great way to inform your trail users within the community and also your destination users, knowing that Park City is a destination for trails. Now, with that, moving into the engagement aspect of developing trails, talking about your stakeholder team and how do you set the vision for trails in the future. Success is built upon a very dynamic team. We're not looking at maybe one sole use on that team. We want to have a lot of folks involved in developing what may be happening for some exciting trails in your community. Collaboration of stakeholders is very, very important, and it leads to different paths to success. Maybe you might run into a roadblock somewhere and you're working through that. Well, you have another path that's taking you to maybe a different trail network experience or development. So you're investigating many different opportunities. And you're doing that via champions and cheerleaders. You look at your trail champions as those that are leaders amongst trail groups or leaders in local government. And maybe those are your core members of your team. And then you have your cheerleaders out there that are speaking to public at large, working with other partnerships, and really taking the work that the core team is doing and spreading that good word throughout the community or the region. You're defining your shared objectives and making sure you're aligned amongst all of those. What are your goals for trails? Are you looking to be a destination? Are you looking to be purely a community amenity? And how are you achieving that and setting some goals and objectives along the way? And partnerships through this is very key. Maybe there's other organizations out there that are aligned in same focus for trails, collaborating with them, or other trail user groups that you want to have working on a steering committee with you, or partnering with foundations or local businesses to support the work that you're doing. And timing is very key in this. Timing really is reflected in some of your first project initiation aspects, who you engage with, and when is the timing right? What planning has been done to date, and how can you interface through a process that's been happening right now or has been completed, and when you're looking to roll out some potential project proposals and whatnot. So when it comes to building the team, you want to have a table of the willing, but then also set seats aside for those who may not be on board quite yet. You may have trouble sometimes identifying others to be on the team with you. And as you start to share ideas from your team or get some more public interface on the team, there's others that may step up that want to jump on the team. Maybe there's others that are a little bit reluctant to some trail development, maybe near their neighborhood or other aspects of trail usership where they may want to not be in line right away, but invite them to the table so you can work through some of the misalignment to make sure everybody is working towards those common goals. We see that to be very successful on projects that we're working on throughout the US. So who's on the team? What are the potential folks that would be on the team for you? Starting with the local government and community leaders, mayors, parks and rec directors, economic development committee members, then getting to your land managers and your decision makers, researching what planning has been done to date and understand what maybe goals and objectives the land managers already have, learning about your decision makers and goals that they have, making sure you're including those land management resource and permitting specialists. We want to know what sort of processes we need to go through to get trails on the ground and implemented and constructed. What sort of permitting may be needed. Understanding that early helps you create that roadmap to getting things completed. Having the trail organizations involved obviously is a very key piece to it. Maybe you have multiple trail organizations and you're working with representatives from those. So those trail user group representatives are key. Involving neighborhood representatives is very important. Many times neighborhoods may be involved on the periphery on a project, but then further down the road, maybe some issues come up that the neighborhood pushes back on. So making sure the neighborhood folks are and direct neighbors, homeowners are informed along the way through maybe a door knocking exercise, making sure that they're informed and involved and help along the way. Foundations and healthcare orgs and businesses are really important. Finding out what the foundations, what their goals and objectives are for your community, and do they have some granting opportunities for dollars that will support your goals and visions through the process. And we're seeing much more engagement from the Tourism and Visitor Bureau folks out there. We just finished up our Trails Labs down in Bentonville, Arkansas last week, and we had the Convention Visitors Bureau Executive Director from Augusta, Georgia there. And I said, well, you should probably take it easy after a week of the Masters there in Augusta. But he said, nope, we got that on lock. We want to look at expanding our offerings and not just be busy in the spring, but we want to have 4-season outdoor recreation opportunities in Augusta. So looking into how they can improve that there. Alongside the community-based folks on your team, reaching out to project experts and many support roles. So planning and design experts like myself with IMBA Trail Solutions and our team, to others throughout the Professional Trail Building Association, local landscape architecture or planning consultants, having them involved in your team and helping you navigate the roadmap to getting trails on the ground. Having a diversity, equity, and inclusion leader on your team, those who are doing programming throughout your community that are looking to get underserved neighborhoods involved, or that population and culture involved with outdoor recreation. Legal advisors are key to this. Maybe you need to set up a 401c3 or other aspects like that. So having your legal advisors on a team. Many volunteers that you may identify through projects have these backgrounds and engage with those. Fundraising specialists along the way is very important. Communication experts, and then also reach out to local university partners. Local universities might have graduate students that are looking at supporting projects like this. So a lot of great opportunities there. So when you're getting your team together, a lot of questions to ask, and we won't go into a whole lot of detail here, but some ideas to think about is, what is your team management? What is your team makeup? How large is the team? How small is the team? Do you have a decision-making role in the process working with your local government and land managers? You want to be a comprehensive team, but also nimble. Sometimes it's hard to adhere, like to, if anyone's heard about Jeff Bezos's 2 pizza rule. Your team should be no larger than what can be fed by 2 pizzas. Well, obviously I've listed a lot of folks here that it take more than 2 pizzas to feed. So maybe you boil it down to a steering committee that meets more routinely and reports out to other subcommittees or reports out to the land managers. So making sure you have the right mix on the team, and there may be some folks that wear a lot of different hats. So developing your vision. You got your team together. Let's talk about our goals and objectives. We want to determine the vision for your trail community and your trail projects. This will guide you as you navigate all the different steps from visioning, planning, design, permitting, bidding processes for engaging trail builders, getting to constructing trails, and then also managing and operating trails. One thing that should not be forgot about or brought in later in the process is maintenance and operations. We want to make sure we're talking about that early so that trail networks that are put on the ground are not way beyond what can be maintained and operated. So that team is really important to develop the vision and think about those aspects. So develop compelling narrative. Tell your story of your community. How does your vision align with maybe the history, or build upon the history of your community, and taking your community into the future? What are those objectives? Are you wanting to be a destination? Are you looking for just better quality experiences for your local community? Or maybe a little bit of both. Maybe it's phased into it, starting out small as an amenity to your community, but you have some great experiences that now you're starting to draw in some regional visitation, maybe nationwide visitation, depending on how you grow. As I mentioned, we're coming off of our Trails Labs out of Bentonville, Arkansas. And the first thing that folks from Bentonville will say is, don't try to be us. We know that they have large funding streams to make projects happen, but they followed a process. And yes, their process may be accelerated and they've gotten some great things on the ground. But what they say is, take away some great ideas, but make it your own. Have a sense of place of your culture, your history, where you're going within your trail plans and development. Looking at who will this benefit? Again, is it just your local community? Is it business benefits? Is it foundation benefits and others? Talking through who you really want to impact with those trails, and how are you doing that via trail connectivity, trail networks, programming, and activation. That's really key. Once you got trails on the ground, they're not just there and people are just recreating on them. Make sure you're activating your community around those trails, and you have programming around those trails too, to really make those trails sing throughout the years. What are the outcomes, social outcomes, even environmental outcomes and physical outcomes for the trails? Talk about the ROI, your return on investment. And ROI isn't necessarily just economic impact, but that social impact, health and wellness impact, as we mentioned earlier in the presentation. And then measuring your success, getting trail counters out there, doing studies on the impact of your trail development, getting some baseline data before you develop those trails. Data is gold. Data is key to gaining more support and funding, and spending a little bit of time up front on understanding your baseline, what's happening in your community, and then how your community is positively impacted by trails in the future. Measuring that is really, really key. So your team is influenced by the vision, and the vision is influenced by your team. A little bit of a cyclical comment there, but it's definitely a way we see teams rolling through their vision, their goals, and their objectives. A little touch point additionally on trail champions, those community leaders, maybe it's the professionals in your community. They're very resource driven, and they touch all the aspects of the life cycle of trails, from the visioning and the community engagement, to working on the access for trails if you already don't have that, the planning and design of things. Concept plans and design plans are multifaceted in supporting many aspects of this life cycle, specifically funding. Planning informs funders. When you go out and ask for funding, you're going to get a lot of questions and advice. Give them a plan to really see what your vision is. And then getting into the construction, the creation of the trails, and then the maintenance and operations and the stewardship of the trails. Your trail champion is involved, or trail champions are involved in, if not all aspects, many aspects of that life cycle of trail development. So identifying trail users. There's a range of trail users out there, obviously. You see a bunch of smiling faces there. What type of trail users are they? You don't necessarily know from this picture. You get a big mix of volunteers that will come out and do work on a trail day for you. It's great to know who those trail users are. Many are easy to identify, but some may take some research to uncover. And that's where professional consultants are helpful in identifying trail users beyond those that are inherently engaged. And consultants also will help you understand maybe what different users seek for trail experiences that aren't necessarily at the table. So it's really key to involve that professional consultant side of things too, as you're going through your trail development and identifying and engaging with and meeting the goals and objectives of the trail users that are out there. So we obviously have hikers out there. All of these trail users, we increase greatly in the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic, we know that a lot of them are staying, a lot of the new users are staying in the recreation spaces that they enjoy. Trail runners, dog walkers. When we're working in communities, we have a lot of opportunities for dog walkers, and we think about what their experiences are, looking for that 10-minute, 20-minute loop close to home, get the doggo out walking around after work. Adaptive trail users, that's a space that is growing a lot. It's been getting a lot of great work around that expansion of access, universal trail access, doing assessments for adaptive trail users and providing great experiences for adaptive trail users. And there'll be more of that coming from us here at IMBA. We're working with Dovetail Consulting, who specializes in adaptive access, and we're working through some assessment protocols via some funding from the Bureau of Land Management, and that resource will be developed here over the next 12 to 18 months. So some great things coming there. Mountain bikers, and we got a range of subset of experiences with mountain bikers that I'll touch on in the next slide. We got motorized uses out there. How do we co-locate some facilities for motorized and non-motorized users, getting into specific experience zones for each? Equestrians, many times that we're seeing, again, the co-location of facilities and maybe a shared use trail that accesses then specific use zones, and understanding how to recreate responsible around each other, similar to what Dave mentioned in Trails Are Common Ground. Birders, that's a really key piece. Nature viewing, wildlife viewing is some of our settings. We want to make sure that we're putting trail development zones in place where it's more of a quiet experience than maybe more some of the active experiences in trail networks. So as I mentioned, the bike optimized experiences, mountain bikers are some of the more complex users out there, because there's a lot of different subsets of what mountain bikers are looking for, from traditional single track all the way to intensive slope style trails and everything in between. Skills development, flow trails, pump tracks, programming through youth mountain bike competition, to really highly bike optimized trails like dirt jumps. All those may be rolling up into bike parks. So as we're developing bike optimized experiences, working with the trail user groups to see what they're wanting in those experiences, or what they have already in the community and what they want to expand into. So really understanding what's happening out there for trails. So understanding trail user objectives. We have a great resource out there that we developed with the Bureau of Land Management that was released in late 2017, early 2018. This book is available as a free download from the Bureau of Land Management's website, along with IMBA's website. I won't dive into details of this here because that's available for free. But this is a document that really leans in on planning trails for experiences rather than planning trails just for pure mileage or just plotting trails out on a property. We're looking at all the different experience types out there, from escape to play to exercise, connectivity, efficiency, and then what different user groups really relate to these different experience types. So as we're engaging with different trail users, we're using this as a guide to help us inform our community, the public, the trail users, our land managers and decision makers on how we're going to go about planning and implementing trails. And this is a very helpful guide that many of you, or all of you, would be great to check out. So it's a good one to learn about. So into the core of what we're talking about here, engagement touch points. I spent a fair amount of time on setting the foundation here. We've got about 15, 20 minutes where we're going to talk about engagement touch points and best practices. And then we'll have some space available for you all to ask some questions. So engagement touch points along the project development lifecycle. Who are we engaging with along with each step? And you'll see many of these are engaged along every step. But project initiation, first starting out there, engaging with your local land management staff and researching what they have maybe for master plans already on a property. See if there's trail experiences that you're looking for in the planning that they have done already. Or are they in a planning process right now that you need to engage in as a team, as trail users, to help inform those that are working on master plans. So that's really key between the land management staff and the government representatives on understanding what they're looking for, and the decision makers learn what they have done in the past, learn what they're standing up for the community in the future. Really key to then use that information to initiate projects with them. As we're proposing projects to land managers, we're engaging with the resource and permitting specialists. So we know what type of things we may need to look at for threatened and endangered species and the habitat zones that we may need to avoid, waters and wetlands, cultural resources, and then what sort of permitting may we need to do in the future? Do we need to get into NEPA and National Environmental Policy Act public permitting process? And at the get-go of things, engaging with those neighborhood representatives. Setting the vision and goals, like we were just talking about, having those folks that we talked about on the team, but then also reaching out maybe a little bit beyond that to local businesses or healthcare organizations. But all those folks that we mentioned to discuss setting those visions and goals. We get into drafting plans. Maybe on our team are those local town planners, county planners, state DNR, depending on the land management locations that you're on, and having those decision makers educated and informed along the way. They may not be on your team, but we're informing them through our engagement touch points. Your steering committee is involved in there, the trail organizations are there, and now we're getting maybe more so at the public at large. We're releasing a draft plan for public comment, and we're doing open houses, maybe some social media outreach, maybe some things in local newspaper, local media, informing the general public to come and comment on the draft plans that are out there. We make our way from draft plan to final plan. Pretty much all those same folks are involved, but maybe at the draft planning stage, the foundations aren't necessarily involved as much, but at the final plan, we're including them because we're showing them that we're aligned with their own goals and objectives from a foundation or from a funder's point of view. Getting into the permitting and compliance. We've got plans, we're gonna start moving into design. What sort of things and level of detail do we need to have in place to inform NEPA or stormwater pollution prevention plans, cultural surveys? The list can go on and on. Maybe you're required to do some public scoping and having a comment period there. You have your local government representatives and your land management staff involved in reviewing permit applications and doing assessment and analysis of potential impacts and maybe how you mitigate those impacts. So making sure you have those resource and permitting specialists informed and involved along the way helps move things along smooth through those processes. Then getting into design review. We've got some permits done, maybe at the high level. We need to go into some specific design, and we continue to engage with many of the touch points or the user groups, the individuals that we've talked about before. But design review maybe is done to make sure that we are aligned with our vision and goals that we set earlier. It's ensuring that we're staying on the path that we had outlined. And then getting into implementation involvement. Volunteers, this is one that we didn't necessarily have some of the earlier bullet points here. While they may be touch points along the way as trail user organization representatives or the public at large, or maybe even part of your steering committee with another hat that they have on. But in implementation involvement, maybe you have volunteers out there working with professional builders, or there's this purely volunteer built projects that are being done. Volunteer engagement is all about creating the stewards for your trails, the hearts and minds of your community, and having ownership, everybody having ownership of the projects that you're working on. Getting into project follow-ups, two key ones there is like if you got funding from a foundation or private funders, following up with them and making sure that what was done out there was aligned with their goals and visions. Hopefully it was. I would say most of the time it is, but it's always good to check in with them, and that helps for future phasing for additional funding because they see that you're aligned with their visions also. Following up with land management staff. Hey, did we build these trails in a manner that fits our maintenance and operations plans? Are they meeting the trail experience objectives? what are we seeing for potential trail conflicts out there and how do we fix them? So doing a lot of follow-ups on things after trails have been put on the ground. So wrapping up the kind of the engagement aspect of things here is our engagement best practices. Many different things that we do through our processes that help inform what we're doing in planning and design. We may start with an online survey that's pushed out to the general public. Maybe it's out via social media push, maybe it's in the media in general, and getting feedback on how people recreate on a property. How often are they going to that property? What are they looking for future things on that property or for your community? So really getting some great wide range of input from those trail users that are out there, and maybe new trail users or those that aren't trail users quite yet. This survey here was from a project in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. We had 197 online survey responses. Was really good for that community. We worked on a project down in Dallas, Texas that had 1,300 responses. So you'll see a range of responses to online surveys, but they're really helpful in helping you kind of guide your first steps in a project. Intercept surveys can be really helpful. Going to a parking lot, going to a trailhead, going to maybe a node where you have a lot of different trail users showing up and asking questions about what are their existing trail experiences? What are they looking for in trail experiences? Are they experiencing some trail conflicts that they'd like to be fixed? What's missing in those trail experiences? And get some idea on what the demographic data is of people out there experiencing the trails, asking questions on age and gender and backgrounds really helps inform what you're doing for trails. Also note, if you're in the parking lot, the types of users that are showing up, numbers of users that are coming in and out, and then also do some head counts in vehicles. Maybe you need to do a traffic analysis of some sort and starting to get an average vehicle occupancy idea of who's showing up and how many people are showing up in a car or a truck to come up with capacity for parking lots or traffic impacts. And also noting maybe those who are riding or walking or trail running to the trail network helps you understand how people are accessing your trail network. Public open houses are very helpful. Doing this during the goals and objectives phase, doing it during the release of a draft plan and getting feedback from those at a public open house. Many times we're doing them at maybe a community center, maybe it's at a brewery. A great way to pull people into a meeting is having pizza and beers. So we've developed a lot of different boards that we put out in print and have some trail experience photos on there. People have sticky colored dots and put a dot on what really you're looking for trail experiences. We might have a range of, is this needed to this is not needed. We'll get dots on that. We'll have some open-ended questions for people to fill out. So really helpful to inform the planning objectives and how we get through our projects. Doing some specific stakeholder listening sessions. Are we doing it one-on-one with user groups? Are we doing it with aligned groups? Are we doing it much larger than that? We worked on or working on a project up in Marquette, Michigan that I'll show our story map on here in a moment, but we engaged with a couple dozen trail user groups and local organizations, local municipalities over a 8-month period, even before we started the planning process. So very much informed from those user groups and other organizations through the process. And we continue to engage with them as we're developing a strategic trails plan for Marquette County. With that, online presentations, interactive story maps are a great way to provide information, inform the general public and everybody else that we've talked about here through the engagement process. They can go through it at their own pace. They can learn more about the projects, get some background on the project, see what the trails that we're assessing, and then goals and objectives for the project. And then we're starting to release details and what the plan starts to look like. So here again is that Greater Marquette Region Strategic Trails Plan that we're working on. Thought I'd just touch on this in a few minutes, and then we'll have about 10 minutes for questions. So Marquette County, we started doing that public engagement phase fall of 2022, and we are about to have the final plan done here in May of 24. So this is the cover from the draft that we put together a couple months ago. And here you can see the project team that we had involved, from us at Trail Solutions to the funder of the project, which is Eagle Mine, to community partners like the Lake Superior Community Partnership. And then we have our Trail Sustainability Coalition. So we have a smaller internal team. We have the wider coalition that we're working with, that we have DNR. We have all the different trail organizations in the county. We're working with the county itself, and then townships throughout the county, being Marquette Township, one of the more engaged. We have a couple development folks involved on that. Long Year is developing residential communities throughout the county. And QPAD is a regional planning committee that has been really helpful throughout the process. In developing the community engagement, we looked at what the community profile looked like. What was the population? What's the breakdown of gender? How many households are in the county? What's the income? What's the level of education? How many employers are in the county? We engage with many employers out there too. So really learning about the community itself. Identifying all the trail networks throughout the county, from the North Country Trail that spans from North Dakota to Maine. There's 100+ miles or so in Marquette County, or across the UP of the North Country Trail, to the mountain bike optimized trails from Harlow Lake, Forestville trails to Marquette North and South, to DNR trails, to the Iron Ore Heritage Trail, which is a great paved trail, and then also a gravel trail throughout much of Marquette County. Pretty exciting group of trail organizations throughout the area. We got into analyzing all the trail networks to inform our planning and also inform the public throughout the county. A lot of folks didn't know about all the different trail networks they have, and seeing what opportunities they have available to them, but also maybe some of the gaps that we have or that they have in the county for trail experiences that need to be added. We did a assessment of how far away are trail networks from towns and communities. Half hour away, hour away, 2 hours away. That may not be exactly right for these little bubbles here, but we look at how close trails are to communities. Actually, I'm not going to go questions quite yet. I was just going to scroll through our community engagement aspect of the story map that we've done for Marquette. We have many story maps throughout projects that we're doing right now. Esri is a GIS platform that we're able to put a lot of data in and do some storytelling through the story maps, and also convey how we've engaged on projects. So you can see examples of the meetings we've had, the boards that we have up around the walls or on easels, asking a lot of questions, getting feedback from folks in many different communities throughout that county. The county did surveys before we started, so we have a lot of breakdown of all the survey questions that were asked, and we got a lot of recommendations when we had some open-ended questions through the survey. So really helpful to inform the planning that we're doing and the trail network assessment that we did. I'll just take a couple minutes to roll through this here. We did a very detailed assessment of the existing trail networks out there to inform us on what connectivity was needed. So background on all the trails, zooming into the county breakdown of trails and communities. I'll just scroll here without talking a whole lot over this, give you an idea of the level of detail that we went into. Like I mentioned, the 80 miles of trails of the North Country Trail that goes through Marquette County, to the Iron Ore Heritage Trail, to trails from the DNR, getting into the more detailed recreation trail networks. I'll scroll a little fast here to maybe some of the Forestville trails. You can see how we zoom in on there. Each of these trails is clickable, so you can get information on those trails themselves. And then we get into a little bit of our assessment beyond that. So a very powerful tool that can be used in community engagement. We have surveys linked to these, survey data and outcomes that can be linked to these. These story maps evolve over time as we are working on these projects. So again, a very useful tool when it comes to community engagement. With that, I'm going to pause, and I know Candace is probably looking through all of the questions coming in via the chat. So I'll let you go with that, Candace.
Yeah, a lot of questions. So thank you, Mike, and thank you, Dave, so much for that presentation. I'm going to do a first question from Chris. What is Eagle Mine's involvement with Marquette County planning? Why is this company involved?
Oh, very good question. So Eagle Mine has been in the county for quite a long time, and they see it in a few different manners. One is retainment of employees and bringing employees into the county. They also are looking at when they're closing the mine and the redevelopment of lands, mitigating mine operations impacts and creating green spaces. And they know that they hold the key to a lot of connectivity for trails throughout the county. So they see that this project is something that will improve the health and wellness and the livability of the county. And they've also recognized some conversations that are happening around climate migrants, that they're going to see an explosion in population in the upper Midwest for folks looking to get away from the heat of the South rather than maybe going down south in the winter, that they may live where they live right now in the winter, but they're going north in the summer to be in cooler climates. So there's a few things that are influencing the reason why Eagle Mine is involved in that. And they're the main funder, but also one of our main points of contact in our internal team.
Right. A question from Andrew. Do you have tools to quantify ROI, return on investment, or suggestions for how to measure ROI?
I'm not necessarily a specialist in that. So there are market analysis consultants out there, economic study professionals out there. Using Marquette as an example, we're engaged with one of the colleges in Marquette County that is doing an impact study for us that includes doing some analyses on investment in trails and what the ROI may be coming out of those. So I don't have specific tools for that, but you can reach out to consultants or groups like that can help work through ROI assessment.
Okay. Jonathan is asking, what software outside of Esri is used to create the story maps similar to the Michigan example that you showed?
Yeah, very much an Esri product through and through. So we use Arc Pro with all the spatial data, along with analyses that we're running. And those data sets are linked then into Esri story map platform. We also will have some static maps that we use that we've created maybe as a base coming out of Arc Pro or AutoCAD or other spatial platforms that we'll take into the Adobe suite. Might have Photoshop work on some photos or background data that we have. Maybe we're pulling it into Adobe Illustrator where we're adding a little bit more marketing looking or flashy looking graphics that Esri can't necessarily do for us. And we're able to place those design assets into the story maps. So we're able to place photos and narratives and content outside of the Esri platforms, importing that into the story maps.
Okay. Debbie's asking, how was the trail survey promoted? Was it via the county website, on social media, etc.?
Yeah, all the above. We want to expand a wide net when we're putting out those online surveys. So we had trail organizations put it out to their email lists of their memberships, put it out via their social media. It went on the county's website and the county's social media, went out with flyers and Facebook posts from businesses. So when it comes to surveys, getting them out there, asking first yourselves on like, okay, what's the folks that we're looking to get it to and how do we get up there and spread that wide net?
Jennifer is asking, do you have a template you use for evaluating existing trails? And how do you get residents to understand that we don't need a spider web of trails on one small municipal land? One trail may be adequate and still protect our local wildlife and natural resources.
there's a lot to unpack in there.
Mhm.
You hit on your question there. You hit on it really good. Like one trail may meet your goals, objectives, and not be as impactful as that spider web. That your best avenue for conserving lands and reducing impact on lands is via purposeful planning and design and implementation of trails. So when we go in to do a trail assessment, take that Sheboygan, Wisconsin example I mentioned. We had 2 folks on the ground for about a week, and they had, I think, 175 individual trail segments that they analyzed. And we use an app called Avenza. Avenza can work on Android and Apple phones. You can create geo-reference PDFs out of a GIS platform, or they even have some beta maps that you're able to put have just served to you right away. And you can take points and photos and put a lot of data into Avenza that then you can export into GIS. We have our own data schema that we use for doing assessment. So we're taking notes and photos about existing conditions. We're looking at existing grades. So what's the average grade? What's the steepest grade? What's the width of the trail? What's the condition of the trail tread? Do we see erosion occurring? Are we traversing a wetland? A lot of issues on that network is there was a spider web of trails that were impacting wetlands and habitat that we made notes of so we can see and inform trail closures, trail realignments. We don't necessarily have a template available to hand out because every project is different, so we adjust that schema. But I'd be happy to maybe follow up with some characteristics of what we analyze when we're assessing trails. So a lot of it is on the physical conditions of the trail itself, but then also talking about what are the trail experience objectives for this, and does it meet those objectives? Along with, if it's a mountain bike trail, is it signed as a certain ability level? And is it truly that ability level? Or if there's lack of signage, what ability level is it? And you can refer to IMBA's ability difficulty level matrix that's available online to see all the physical characteristics of trails for ability levels from beginner, intermediate to advanced trails, including what we would call white ability levels. So white, green, blue, and black. White being more of that wide, shared use, multi-use, paved path, shallow grades, wide widths, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Great. Another question from Woon, if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. How would you resolve trail user conflict? A new bike trail is planned for a national park in Australia, and there has been angered conversationists.
We have a lot of things in our toolkit as designers that we can use to mitigate, reduce, hopefully eliminate conflict. So we look at the appropriate grades if it's a shared use trail, so that maybe we are controlling speeds of riders. We look at how intersections are occurring and having good sight lines into intersections so that all users can see who's coming into this intersection. Maybe it's a shared use trail that we put some directionality on it. Maybe everybody's going in one direction, so you're not having crossing interface of trail users. Sometimes that's not totally possible. So maybe you have the pedestrians are 2-way and the riders are 1-way. So it's climbing only for the bikes. So pedestrians know which direction the bikes are coming from. But then that allows that climb to get to maybe a bike only, bike optimized descent, but then also gets to a hike only experience zone. So that purposeful planning and design, thinking about the trail users that are allowed to be on that trail network, and use some of the tricks, I wouldn't say tricks, some of the tools that we have in our toolbox to manage trail users out there. Trail conflicts are very much site specific, so I can talk in generalities here, but it's really kind of just knowing the users that are there, the space that it's in, and why are those conflicts happening? Is it because you have a too steep of a slope for the riders coming into pedestrians? Maybe it's lack of signage. Signage is really key in that. Maybe you need to create some filters on your trails to slow people down or stop maybe certain users be able to go through. Sometimes you do that with motorized use of bollards, that you might have a shared use corridor, motorized, not motorized, but going to a non-motorized space. You make sure that you have something that ATV can't fit through.
Great. Great. Well, we have run out of time, so I know that there's a lot of questions, and I encourage attendees to reach out to the presenters. I will share their email again in my follow-up email that will be sent within 2 days. So you can follow up with them and get any unanswered questions answered. So thank you again so much, Mike, and thank you, Dave, for this presentation. And I also, again, want to thank our webinar partners that include Visit Long Beach Peninsula, the Professional Trail Builders Association, iZone Imaging, the Bureau of Land Management, the National Park Service, and the USDA Forest Service. And this slide that you see here is the resources slide that I will share in my follow-up email, along with the link to the recording and the closed caption transcript. And if you are enjoying these webinars, please consider donating as little as $5 by texting I'm for Trails to 44321. I will do a monthly drawing for those that donate today to win our Trail Boss mug, Happy Trails coaster, and stickers. And if anyone donates $50 or more or becomes a sustaining monthly donor, I will automatically send you a mug as a thank you. And we hope you'll be able to join us for the next webinar that we have in our Advancing Trails webinar series. I'm taking a little break. So the next webinar that we have is free. And of course, learning credits are free, and we hope you can register for that. And we also remind you to subscribe and support American Trails on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/American Trails to get a notification when we go live every Thursday, except for the next few Thursdays. So thank you again to everyone for attending. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, and happy